Rubo la scena al Presidente, mi permetto. Before we start the official last session, as President Pons had to leave, I have a message from President Pons, but I think from all of us to Vice President Zoffili. It's just a huge word of appreciation for arranging this audience with the Pope, to you and to Valeria, who have pulled together something that is very amazing. So thank you very much for this. All our members I've spoken to are very much impressed by this, and you will soon receive also instructions on where you can find your individual photos. They will all be published. Thank you very much, Eugenio, and Valeria, thank you very much for pulling this off. Thank you.
Grazie a lei, grazie a te.
Thank you.
Per questo tuo...
Thank you, dear Secretary General. Thank you for your opening remarks. Well, I must say that our sessions yesterday were very, very interesting, and this has been a very moving start to the morning. We were able to meet with the Holy Father, and I think this memory will stay with us and will stay with the OSCE EPA and with the Italian Parliament, both the Chamber and the Senate, forever. We will never forget it. And to all of you, to the Secretary General, I would like to say that we should tell our colleagues about this experience during our annual session. I think we will have to share the important message conveyed by the Holy Father on the fight against organized crime and drugs. The message will be published on the website of the Holy See, on the official website of the Vatican, and the photos we took will also be published. All the pictures that we took during the audience and during the initial meeting with the Holy Father. And once again, I would like to thank the Holy See for the availability and for the deep message that the Pope has conveyed to us and to our organization. So let us now start the third panel, entitled "The Fight Against Drugs, Follow the Money, Targeting Proceeds, Dismantling Criminal Networks." We took inspiration from our magistrate, Falcone, who was killed in an attack by the mafia. And I shall now give the floor to Major General Antonio Quintavalle Cecere, Commander of the Central Investigation Bureau on Organized Crime of the Italian Financial Police. General Quintavalle Cecere has been in command of SCICO, this bureau, this unit, since 2022, and is an expert in asset investigations and fight against the mafia. And he has always worked closely with our Parliamentary Assembly. He also participated in the first edition of our conference last year, and I am confident that he will have important updates to share with us on the key issue of this year's edition, that is the fight against drugs. So once again, thank you for being here, and I would also like to thank the whole command and Commander De Gennaro. We shall now hear your address. You have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you, President Zoffili. Gathering different countries on these issues is very important, because this allows us to combat this phenomenon, as this is a transnational one. Today's theme is very relevant to us as tax police. We deal with economic and financial matters within law enforcement agencies in Italy. We were established as a customs police, and then we were turned into tax police to fight tax dodging. And in 100 years of history, we have acquired ad hoc expertise in analyzing financial statements and following financial flaws. The follow the money approach is very dear to us and to our history. For those who don't know it, Giudice Falcone had wide experience on crimes against property. So he had developed a very special tool set to fight this. At the time, in Palermo, heroin was exported to the Americas from Palermo, and at that time he understood that by following the profits of drug trafficking, he could, in fact, pinpoint illicit investments. This philosophy still stands in terms of approach and methodology. However, our enemy, the mafias, have evolved to a great deal. Let me, for a moment, backtrack to these economic stakes. The Global Financial Integrity in Washington states that illegal financial flows globally account for $1.6 billion. This is a 2.7% of global GDP. Out of this, and I'm only referring to narcotics trafficking, out of this, drug trafficking generates proceedings account for almost $500 billion, according to the UNODC data. Of course, estimates must be looked at with a grain of salt. But nonetheless, they just give us a gist of what it is that we are combating. How have these procedures, how have they evolved? As I said at the beginning of my presentation, businesses were infiltrated with the mafia stakeholders. This is where mafia members infiltrated and invested their proceeds. Today, invoices for non-existing operations are many. For example, a company that divests a good on paper does so to another company that pays for that good or that property with a wire transfer. So from a legal point of view, this is lawful, this is legit, so banks are not duty-bound to report this operation. And what do mafias do? At the time, they would provide a loan with a very high rate of return. So a mafia company would issue an invoice to the entrepreneur who was a victim of usury. And this is how the unlawful transaction could not be reported and identified, because on paper this was a fully fledged and lawful transaction. This system, in the meantime, has evolved. And then we also have the whole world of cryptocurrencies, and there it is very difficult to actually follow the money. The Italian law enforcement and foreign law enforcement have already provided themselves with tools that allow us to track down blockchain nodes. However, anonymity or pseudo-anonymity for those who in fact operate in this gray area is such that we are unable to track down people who commit these crimes. And when it comes to cryptocurrencies, I would like to remind you as a research carried out by LM Labs. This is a property that cooperates with law enforcement agencies, and based on their study research, transactions through unlawful wallets in 2004 accounted for 64 billion euros, while in 2025 they accounted for 158 billion euros. So as opposed to 2024, this was a 146.9% increase as opposed to the previous year. And this went hand in hand with an increase in illicit operations to dodge controls. But there's one more point I would like to raise that is very telling as to how our enemy is technologically advanced. Based on their studies and following operations that have led to seizures of illegal substances, we're talking about 500 kilograms of cocaine, we have witnessed high volumes of transactions on wallet and token alike. And financial flows initiated on platforms that you can find on the dark web. What do I mean? Criminal organizations have funds in the dark web, and then when we have seizures of drugs, they would have to end up buying money from their South American supplies, but these credits have to be paid back. And this, what do? They take their money, the ones that they have in the dark web, and virtually they pay back their loans, the credit vis-a-vis Latin American organizations. And this is very frustrating for us. We are, of course, able to track down unlawful flows, illegal transactions, but then finding people who commit crimes along the whole chain is no little thing. So, as I said, the crypto world is moving fast. They know no limits in terms of financial rules or rules of any other kind. This has an impact on all of our state institutions because this has a widespread economic impact. Our economy is no longer infiltrated by mafia. As a matter of fact, mafias are part and parcel of our economy as a word. Let me now quote a very important sentence just to give you the gist of what we're talking about. Senator Grasso, while heading the National Anti-Mafia Bureau in a 2009 hearing, would talk of a wiretapping event that, with hindsight, tells us that mafia organizations are very much focused on the economic activities of the country. At the time, Grasso mentioned the wiretapping that occurred on the day the Berlin Wall fell, and on that day, a mafia member invited someone else to go to East Berlin to buy things, and the mafia member said that he would have to buy everything that happened to be in their scope of activity. That is to say, hotels, discos, and other facilities. But just to give you the idea that mafia is infiltrated everywhere, and it was already at the time. So with no wiretapping operations, it is very difficult to track down the starting point. Now, years and years have gone by, and the situation has by no means improved. Many countries have realized that when it is only too late. So it is also a matter of cultural mindset when it comes to fighting mafias. So the cryptocurrency world is a cause for great concern because the economic stakes are very high. Let me mention yet another study carried out by Europol in 2024. According to them, 86% of 821 most dangerous criminal groups operating in the EU tap into unlawful companies to support and facilitate illegal activities to launder money. And they tap into trusts, partnerships, and other forms, and this is how they expand their operations and thereby reducing risks of being intercepted by law enforcement. This is the world we operate in today. Coupled with this, we have also identified a strong interaction between Italian mafias and foreign mafias, as a matter of fact. Who are the protagonists of this enormous challenge we're faced with from an investigation point of view? No, number one, Chinese groups. The so-called Chinese underground banking. So these groups have millions and millions of cash. If we are to place a CCTV camera in front of a laundry shop or a Chinese shop, and I'm saying so without any racist approach whatsoever, it is only an objective figure, you would see that people would take to these places bags full of money, cash. Here in Rome, in the Esquilino area, we carried out an investigation, and on a flat on top of this shop, we placed a camera, and we wiretapped the sound of machines which count cash, banknotes, and this was a daily exercise. And this is how we get black money on our homeland. And this money has to be sent back to their homeland without having to be intercepted. And this is how illegal procedures are carried out. But we are well placed in terms of tools to combat and identify these flaws. As many of you know, the AWALA methodology, or the fay chain methodology, is such that they gather this cash, they take a picture of a banknote with a serial single identifying number, and they send this picture to the country of destination of this money. Say China, for instance. The individual who is supposed to receive money would show up at the Chinese shop in another part of the world with this token, this univocal, this single identifying number, and he would get a fee from the Chinese shop where the operation was initiated, and a fee at the site of destination. We have been monitoring this procedure for years, and then in Brescia we have identified yet another modus operandi which affects entrepreneurs on the ground. Entrepreneurs need to pay less taxes, and in doing so, they have to demonstrate that they have incurred higher costs than the proceeds, and this is how I pay less taxes. So they need to reduce costs, and they need cash because they have to pay the labor with no employment contracts whatsoever. And this is how they pay less, because they do not pay Social Security, unlike lawful companies. They have to obtain licenses or permits from state administrations in order to have access to public funds. So what do entrepreneurs do? They reach out to the 'Ndrangheta organization that acts as an intermediate actor. So they would say, we have cartel organizations all over Europe, and this is the service that we are able to offer. We issue a fake invoice. You, as an entrepreneur, you pay for this invoice as a wire transfer, and we do so with beneficiaries having their headquarters in the Balkans, in Germany, or in other European countries. The last mile is a company that is issued by a Chinese company to the last mile of the other actor, the other stakeholder. When the Chinese enterprise gets the money, this is when they will tell you, you can pay what is owed. And this is where the 'Ndrangheta linchpin will come in handy. So the entrepreneur would have two actors to reach out to. Of course, fees account for 10 or 15% in terms of costs of this unlawful operation. So the entrepreneur has gotten what he wanted. So cash and reduced costs. The 'Ndrangheta organization earns money without risking anything, unlike drugs trafficking, which entails many more risks, while Chinese stakeholders have their profits on very high amounts of money. So, and this is very destabilizing. The fight we're faced with is a daunting one. And we also have a high responsibility. We, on a daily basis, carry out tax audits, especially on products that were manufactured in Italy by manufacturers who did not respect legislation on counterfeit goods. So we report unlawful operations, and we happen to intercept this phenomena in our everyday administrative operations. And this is why we are trying to get a broader picture which would allow us to understand who it is that we're faced with. You know, I'll give you the example of the Camorra, since I am from Naples. If we carry out an audit on someone or an individual or a company, and we don't get as far as to ascertain whether there is a criminal background, criminal records in respect of that person or that company, if we do not take this into account, then we would end up playing their own game. Now, let me spend a few words on cooperation. When we cooperate with our European and non-European colleagues, we are very successful. However, something holds us back vis-à-vis our enemies. What do I mean by this? When we identify a suspect company, for instance, in Belgium, say we identify a letterbox company or a shell company, and we want to vet that address, we need to get swift responses on the other side of the spectrum, of the investigative spectrum. Otherwise, these people will disappear into thin air. This is something which is taking a toll on our own economies, because this is how they dodge taxes, they exploit labor. We need to be swift, because once we have identified this phenomena, we have to act quickly and swiftly. And this is a very pivotal forum to speak the truth. We have to be fast when it comes to police and judicial cooperation fora. If we don't get to be fast, we will get there when it is too late, when money will have already disappeared. And this is why initiatives such as this conference are of the utmost importance, because they kind of raise awareness amongst operators. Regulatory tools are important, and we are trailblazers in this regard. But when it comes to the European courts on human rights, the European Court of Human Rights has been kind of limiting our operations for the sake of human rights, which are, of course, important, but they do not need to be a hindrance to our investigations. Property-related investigations, for instance, there are tools whereby we can get data from banks. In a matter of days, I can carry out a property investigation file by obtaining data from banks. And this is how we get dossiers which can help us identify a property that must be seized. But then it took me 1 year to carry out such an investigation because of privacy considerations. While in the meantime, my enemies had already developed 3,000 virtual wallets. Of course, human rights-related regulations must be respected, but they do not have to turn into a hindrance, into an obstacle to our investigation. In 2025, we have asked for seizures of movable and unmovable property accounting for almost 4 billion euros, and we have seized property accounting for at least 2 billion euros. So we have achieved some results, but there's much more that needs to be done, and we have to act swiftly. We have the go fast phenomena on the borders of Europe, that is to say, speedboats operating at sea, and in a matter of week, and by cooperating with our Spanish counterparts, we were able to seize 5 tons of cocaine. If you observe them from the space, you would see chains of rubber boats which station at sea for weeks until they wait for ships coming from the Americas who would drop loads of cocaine, only for them to take them on board and send them to the final addressees. So this is, we could not wait, but we had to wait until rubber boats could be seized and detained. But profits are much bigger than the mere proceeds earned by the last mile, that is to say, rubber boats drivers. We need to tap into cooperation, and we need to be quick, and we need to come up with a stronger investigative cooperation framework. Otherwise, we will never be able to strike them at the beating heart. People died while trying to fight against this phenomenon. And this is a legacy we must cherish. We must remain determined and committed to a common goal. Thank you.
Grazie, Generale.
Thank you so very much, General. You really deserve this round of applause. And it's also a great chance to pay tribute to all victims of mafia and organized crime. We're also remembering their families. We are working on a resolution. We are drafting the resolution right now during these days, and we will present it at The Hague at our annual meeting in July. And I am sure that your insights and your remarks, especially when it comes to raising awareness within institutions and parliaments, will be part of our final document. We really want to raise awareness, and we want to invite parliamentarians to go back to their national parliaments and demand investments and support for law and order agencies and for all authorities fighting against organized crime. This is one of our concrete goals that we are working on, and so I really think that your address has given us some interesting insights also when it comes to exchanges between authorities and institutions. The Italian financial police is dear to us. We were able to meet with the financial police in Lampedusa. We were also at sea together with your colleagues, and during that visit we were able to fully appreciate your work. You've mentioned Europol. Europol provides analysis and support. There are teams in each and every single member country. The headquarters of Europol are at The Hague. So I was thinking, and the members of our secretariat are looking at me right now, but I was thinking about it, you know. in terms of anti-terrorism, fight against organized crime. This is part of our remit as OSCE EPA. So I was thinking that if we're interested in it, we might organize a visit to the Europol headquarters in The Hague so we can get some briefings and we can experience firsthand this institution. Since we will all be at The Hague in July, I think this might be a great chance. Maybe Mr. Monabello can give me some feedback on this. I just think it could be an interesting opportunity to delve into the role of Europol. Now, from our delegation, from the financial police, let us now move on to government level by hearing the address by Marta Stigsins, Deputy Head of the OSCE Strategic Policy Matters Unit and Cybercrime Advisors. She has 15 years of experience at international level, and she will share her insights on the new frontiers of organized crime, especially on the strategic responses that are required. We have already met in Vienna, and I would like to thank her once again for being here in Rome. She's originally from London, UK. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I would really like to start by thanking you, Vice President Zoffili, the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, the Senate of the Italian Republic, and the Chamber of Deputies of the Italian Republic for the invitation to speak at this important event, and to commend you for bringing together such a distinguished group of parliamentarians and practitioners to discuss one of the most pressing transnational security challenges affecting the OSCE area and beyond. It's really a great honor to be here today on behalf of the OSCE Secretariat's Transnational Threats Department. Among the mandates the OSCE participating states have given to our department is to assist them in preventing and combating organized crime by strengthening their ability to target the proceeds of crime and to dismantle criminal networks. At the core of this work is addressing through needs-based, targeted and impactful technical assistance and capacity building the financial motivations that drive and fuel organized crime. On the prevention side, recognizing and counteracting the false promise of quick money is crucial to effectively disrupting youth recruitment into organized crime, particularly in an age of social media-driven recruitment. This is not only the right thing to do, it's also the most resource efficient. Research from Germany shows that the average young multiple offender generates 1.7 million euros in social follow-up costs by the age of 25. When it comes to repression, systematically focusing efforts on recovering assets owned by criminal organizations achieves a twofold purpose. On the one hand, it deprives criminals of their financial power, thus limiting their ability to scale their criminal enterprise through corruption and reinvestment of profits in the legal and illegal economy. And on the other, it deters the commission of further crimes, removing the incentive of financial gain from criminal activity and thus undermining the fundamental purpose of organized crime. Reflecting the complexity and evolving nature of organized crime and drug trafficking, the OSCE applies a comprehensive approach built around three components. Firstly, understanding the phenomenon through policy-oriented research. Secondly, strengthening asset recovery through enhanced regional and cross-regional cooperation. And third, enhancing prevention and fostering resilience, especially amongst young people. The first of these pillars consists of unique research on new and emerging challenges to support evidence-based policy and practice. Since late 2023, we have published 2 studies on the often underexplored and misunderstood topic of the role that women can and indeed are playing in organised crime. Our research, which benefited greatly from the contribution of the National Anti-Mafia and Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor, as well as the Guardia di Finanza, examines the agency of women within criminal networks and their involvement across different criminal markets, including drug trafficking, distribution, and drug-related violence. It shows that across the OSCE area, women's active involvement is rarely recognized by criminal justice practitioners due to persistent gender stereotypes. This enables them to act with relative impunity, enabling and sometimes driving the activities of organized crime groups, often in important roles. By extension, it also means that women remain largely absent from exit and witness protection programs. This leads us to 2 key conclusions. Firstly, that we are failing to provide women and girls the same exit pathways from organized crime as are available to men and boys. And secondly, that we're missing a crucial opportunity to disrupt organized crime by engaging these women and girls as key witnesses. Their insider knowledge of criminal operations, structures, and alliances is key to building cases and successfully prosecuting criminal groups. The second pillar of the OSCE's approach focuses on enhancing the effectiveness of the asset recovery process across participating states. This is where our commitment to follow the money becomes concrete. We support participating states in tracing, freezing, confiscating, managing, and reusing criminal assets, both domestically and by strengthening international cooperation. Our particular focus of our work is connecting prosecutors, law enforcement, and asset management agencies at the regional and trans-regional level through practitioner networks, ensuring that they're able to collaborate effectively across borders to combat what is an inherently transnational threat. For example, to increase the efficiency and cost-effectiveness of asset management, the OSCE provides operational support to the Balkan Asset Management Interagency Network, or BAMIN. As well as providing a platform to exchange good practices, BAMIN is also intensely practical. It enables direct peer-to-peer contact, facilitating crucial rapid information sharing in cases where assets are located abroad. The second platform is the PCOCP, the Permanent Conference of Organized Crime Prosecutors, of which the National Anti-Mafia and Anti-Terrorism Directorate is a founding member, and to which the Guardia di Finanza has regularly contributed. This is an informal network of prosecutors supported by the OSCE, which is designed to facilitate cross-border cooperation in fighting organized crime and corruption. It helps prosecutors exchange experience, build trust, and cooperate more effectively in complex transnational cases. Together, BAMIN and PCOCP turn the follow-the-money approach into practice. Prosecutors identify and pursue their assets, while asset management agencies preserve their value and ensure they can be ultimately returned to society. The third and final pillar of the OSCE's approach aims at fostering a culture of lawfulness and resilience across society. Sustainable and effective community resilience against organized crime starts with the societal group that is most vulnerable to exploitation by criminal groups, young people. Youth crime rates are rising in many places across the OSCE area, with offenders getting progressively younger. On average, a young person commits their first criminal offence at between 9 and 11 years old. Criminal networks are strategically recruiting youth below the age of criminal liability to evade detection and prosecution. The risk of youth involvement in crime is exacerbated by social media, with criminal networks specifically using these platforms to target young people. Tactics such as using youth language and slang and gamification falsely promise power and influence, a sense of belonging, quick cash, and the promise of a luxury lifestyle, while masking the real risks and dangers of involvement in organised crime. Financial illiteracy significantly exacerbates young people's vulnerability, making them more susceptible to these tactics. To tackle these risks, the OSCE prioritises, firstly, youth education and awareness, to foster critical thinking and to de-glamorise crime. Secondly, the early identification and multi-stakeholder support to address the root causes of youth crime. And third, regional dialogue and good practice exchange. This comprehensive approach was encapsulated in the event we held here in Rome at the end of March this year, in close cooperation with Italy, including the Guardia Finanza, alongside the Inter-American Development Bank. At this event, we discussed recruitment trends and effective prevention strategies. And by bringing together high-level policymakers and frontline practitioners from law enforcement and social and child protection services from across Southeastern Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, the event was able to highlight how to strengthen early identification and intervention, enhance interagency collaboration, and promote public-private cooperation. Organised crime and drug trafficking are not only criminal justice problems, and so they can't be effectively combated by criminal justice practitioners alone. To prevent and disrupt organised crime, we need to streamline our efforts around a common and shared agenda, and join forces with civil society, academia, the private sector, and other actors committed to this common fight. Such a whole-of-society approach serves as the foundation for impactful efforts to counter transnational organised crime, ensuring not only public safety and security, but also the protection of human rights and the rule of law across the OSCE area. Drawing on the OSCE's comprehensive toolbox and practical experience, the Transnational Threats Department remains committed to supporting participating states and partners for cooperation to identify and implement the actions that can address the ever-evolving challenge of organised crime. Thank you very much.
Grazie molte. Grazie molte.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stickings. Our common goal is to keep working together to further strengthen our alignment on these issues. That is the alignment between the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and the government dimension. I think this is key. Thank you. Now we shall hear the address by MP Simonetta Matone. Did I say Simona? It's Simonetta. Excuse me. Yes, it's my name is from the 6th century. Anyway, yes, she's also a judge on top of being an MP, so I have to be very careful. Anyway, all jokes aside, Simonetta Matone is a dear friend and a colleague. She's a member of parliament, and she's a former magistrate, and she has She has had year-long experience as public prosecutor at the Juvenile Court and Deputy Attorney General, is currently a member of the Justice Committee at the Chamber of Deputies. Her in-depth knowledge of the judicial system and its legislative implications will certainly be of great value to our discussions. You have the floor, Simonetta. Thank you, Eugenio. Eugenio is really good at organizing events. I'm always happy when he invites me to participate, because what we do here is not just mere words, it's real actions, and I like having a real operational approach. I've also been the Italian focal point for minors for 8 years within the Council of Europe, so I know these European institutions very well. And even though some politicians want us to believe that we are so detached from European institutions, we are not. When it comes to drugs, I have a lot of experience because for 41 years I've been a magistrate, and 24 years of them, 17 of them I was a public prosecutor, and for the rest of them I was a general prosecutor. So I was able to participate in so many trials on international drug trafficking. And about 60% of my activity was related to drugs. When it comes to drugs and narcotics, I think we have to adopt a really steadfast approach. Together with other colleagues, especially colleagues from my party, I've been fighting for some time to change our approach. I think we should not differentiate between light drugs and hard drugs. I always go on TV. For example, I participated in the Italian program called Porta a Porta, and I remember a very interesting episode where an image, an MRI was shown of a person smoking weed. And it's really interesting to understand what happens in our brain even when we consume light drugs. Then, when it comes to drug dealing, I would like to point one thing out. Drug addicts never started with hard drugs. They always started from the so-called soft drugs. So no one starts taking cocaine or heroin if they have not first consumed softer drugs. But the underlying issue here is that the use of cocaine has changed a lot over time. It's not just drug addicts using cocaine at the moment. There are also big managers, doctors using cocaine. I met one who lost his life, and he could only stay on top of work, on top of things, by using cocaine. So when we deal with this issue, we really have to keep in mind who the actual users are. And our first speaker today has also mentioned this issue very well. But why am I saying all of this? Well, the market has changed because users have changed. When I first became a magistrate, this was not the case. Drugs were only used by criminals, and these people used to die then because of heroin. Now heroin use has decreased a lot, and I see the general agreeing with me. So heroin consumption has decreased by a lot. However, the cocaine market has changed a lot. Prices have changed a lot too, because they are now much lower. When we seize these drugs, we are never faced with just one type of drug. At least until I was a general prosecutor, I left about 5 years ago, our seizing operations always entailed a mixture of different drugs, that is to say cocaine and other so-called soft drugs. The point we should get across to final users is that if you spend even just 10 euros to buy some weed, or if you spend 50 euros for some cocaine, for one dose of cocaine, you are still feeding into and financing a criminal network. That person you're giving your money to is the last link in the criminal chain. It's not just a client. That person is financing the whole criminal chain. And without that link in the chain, the organization would not survive, would not exist. This is pure speculation. However, I think that everyone should know this. Seizures confirm that drugs are not produced in Italy. However, Italy is the end terminal. And up until I was general prosecutor, one thing was very clear. 10 families from Calabria had moved to the east to control the drug market. These families were working abroad. However, drugs were coming to Italy. So we are some intermediaries. This is a highly sophisticated world. And what do Italians do? Italians, in a way, contribute to the processing, or rather, they contribute to storing these substances. Italians hold the drugs, as we say. These people are a very fruitful investment. With 10 euros, you can gain 110 euros. And drugs are the only substances that can multiply revenues so well. The financial police, as we heard, carries out wiretapping operations. They were able to identify loads. And two things were clear. People who store the drugs are also responsible for paying for drugs. These people have to pay for it. And then there is another interesting fact. These intermediaries storing the drugs, they are convinced that they are doing some honest work. That's what we heard from the wiretapping. We heard people talking to their parents and saying, I'm trying to build my future, I'm working. And these bastards from the financial police have seized all drugs that I had. So this is really a parallel universe. And we should know everything about it in order to fight against it properly. So I think it's entitling the session "Follow the Money" was a really good choice. This was a great intuition of Judge Giovanni Falconi. The most effective strategy to fight against organized crime is following the money, especially when it comes to drug trafficking. There are, however, some great developments that I've witnessed over my professional experience. When I joined the judiciary in the 80s, we only had banknotes. Today, however, we have cryptocurrencies. Drug cartels use bitcoins more and more to pay for logistical services. Another important aspect is digital smurfing, and I think the colleague mentioned this as well. That is, big sums of money are divided into small transactions in order to elude bank controls, which I think are only carried out if the sum exceeds 3,000 or 5,000 euros. Police forces use a software called blockchain analysis to trace financial flows and go back to their origin. But what is the issue here? This is a gray economy, so to speak. Some big sectors, such as gambling, the building sectors, where a lot of money is laundered. Proceeds are reinvested in licit activities, thereby creating competition on the market. These people have a lot of cash, whereas the other parties might have to ask for a loan. So the financial police carries out controls that are essential, because we need to assess whether there is a correspondence between the lifestyle a person actually has and the assets that they declare to own. There is a new European authority called AMLA, which has the goal of harmonizing data so that there are new safe havens. In Italy, we have some really strict legislation that I'm very proud of. The same goes for pedopornography and for international drug trafficking. I was able to get 20, 24, or 26 years of imprisonment for drug traffickers. And people who are interested in this business, so to say, should keep this in mind. You've also spoken of preemptive seizures. And I think we have to pay a lot of attention to seizures. I've really studied this issue in depth. In our country, in Italy, there have been some real tragedies. We've had some seizures that are purely administrative in nature, and oftentimes they are wrong. That means that a certain individual might be acquitted. However, their company is totally destroyed. And I think this is also because we are not able to choose judicial administrators well enough. I looked into the numbers of pre-trial seizures to get an idea of the situation, and I really realized that we have made some big mistakes there. But I think this is a purely Italian program, so I will not keep talking about it. Then, international traffic, as I was saying, is dominated by cocaine. There has been some fluctuation in the seizure of weed and hashish, whereas cocaine consumption is definitely increasing. Then, as for the mafia, I think we've almost won over the mafia. The 'ndrangheta is is still laundering money, but with some new aspects, some new dynamics. Drug traffickers are getting used and adapting to geopolitical changes, so they exploit what's not working well at international level. And our effort here should be aimed at changing our approach towards the new generations. That is, we should convey a different message about drugs. I'm convinced that we are not doing enough. We're not paying enough attention. We're being indifferent. But the world of drugs is actually very close to us, so we should be paying more attention. Thank you, MP Mattone, for your very clear and tangible words. Thank you for addressing our Parliamentary Assembly. We shall now hear MP Emanuele Loperfido, member of the Chamber of Deputies and Vice Chair of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly's Ad Hoc Committee on Countering Terrorism. He's also a member of the Defense Committee here at the Chamber of Deputies and the Foreign Affairs Committee at the Chamber. You have the floor.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me thank you for being here. We met the Holy Father earlier this morning. Let me tell you that it was such a moving experience that even being back here and listening to each other after such a strong experience demonstrates that this OSCE Parliamentary Assembly Forum is indeed pivotal. And this is precisely why I want to thank once again Eugenio Zoffili. And let me also welcome you here in the eternal city of Rome. I would like to reiterate that this morning's meeting, for those who believe and even for those who do not believe, was probably one of the single most moving meeting in our life as parliamentarians. So we met the Holy Father, and this meeting entails a heightened responsibility for us, parliamentarians and representatives of institutions. We're back at the Chamber of Deputies now, and under the slogan, fighting against crime and fighting drugs. Well, what I want to say is, after this morning, we can comfortably say that it's even more important for us to take on more responsibilities, even within the framework of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We have to do more. We have to do something meaningful in the face of such a daunting challenge. When we talk about organized crime or criminal activities, and when we talk about this in Italy, our minds immediately conjure up scenes from the Godfather movie or other TV shows based on those say scenarios, but nothing could be farther from the truth. That is to say, from what criminal organizations truly are. Today, criminal organizations are different. They have changed profoundly. You would not even find them in the traditional homelands. They are in other necks of the wood, and they do not move around with a rifle or the traditional mafia member's hat, but they are maybe accountants who got their degrees in Harvard. They are lawyers who got their degrees in La Sorbonne in Paris, and they are part and parcel of these criminal organizations nonetheless. And this is why we have to act with a different mindset. We have said this repeatedly this morning. We need experienced stakeholders, including experienced politicians, because we have to move ahead, and we have to be quicker than mafia members themselves. It is like doping and anti-doping measures in sports activity. We have to be able to outpace drug traffickers and to be trailblazers, to get there before they do. And this is what the OSCE is all about. We can fight drugs, and this has to be our first and most important goal. But it is only through organizations, through the OSCE, it is only through organizations such as this one that we can succeed, because this organization can support the harmonization of legislation, national legislations, just to start with. Otherwise, we would end up having dark holes in our organization. I mean, member states who have not harmonized their legal systems, and this is where we got stuck in the way, because then everything we have done will have been in vain. So harmonization is of the essence. We have to come to terms with the reality of things. Criminal organizations trade drugs to our youngsters. Criminal organizations are also terrorist organizations. I was indeed shocked when, during a hearing at the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Chamber of Deputies, during a hearing, I heard representatives from the fight against terrorism here, and they told us that the beating heart of financial activities of Hezbollah is not Lebanon, it's not Iran, it's not the Middle East either, but it is borders with South America. What do I mean by this? As MP Matone said earlier this morning, and I thank her for saying so, those who buy drugs, purchase drugs, and of course drug addicts are also a social scourge and a problem we have to come to terms with by offering them rehabilitation pathways. However, those who buy drugs also fund criminal and terrorist organizations. And these are the same terrorist organizations which prevent us from creating a world resting on peace, trade, diplomacy, and most importantly, a healthy society. We tend to say we must have a universal list of terrorist organizations. Well, this list could help international organizations to effectively combat crime. This list could allow us to ensure a better future for our children and grandchildren, a world with democratic states resting on Western values, that is to say, peace and democracy. So we have to be able and understand what our role is and what it means to be members of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you very much, Emanuele. I would like to thank Emanuele Lopelfi, the representative of Brothers of Italy. Let us conclude with the MP Gianluca Cantalamessa. He's also a member of the Italian delegation to OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, and he is also group leader of Lega, of our Parliamentary Committee of Inquiry into the phenomenon of mafia. Thank you very much, Eugenio. This is your second term. You started, you are now a senator, but you started as a member of the Chamber of Deputies. Thank you, Eugenio. Let me begin with a reflection. I was raised with a friend of mine who started smoking joints when he was a kid, and then he moved on to crack and heroin, and then he started selling heroin. He ended up in prison. He got out of prison. He withdrew, and he set up 2 therapeutic communities. He got married, and now he has a business of his own. What has he taught me? Why do I have this blank paper with me? He told me, you see, take this blank paper and dig a hole in it. The drawing you would draw around this hole, it would be different depending on who does that. Maybe that gap is a parent that died too young, maybe because I had a friend who would beat us up. So the thing is, I need to find a piece of this of this size that fits in the hole, and there's nothing like this. The only thing that would fit in all holes is drugs, is narcotics. But the only way for us to really grow up is to come to terms with this hole that rests deep in every one of us. We need to be on par with the challenges we're faced with as human beings without giving up to the easiest solution, that is to say, drugs. It would be nice to be able to stop crime, just as it would be nice for us to develop antibodies before getting ill. It would be way too easy. We got sick with organized crime in Italy so many years ago, and now we have sound antibodies. We were told so by our DEA members and other foreign law enforcement members. We were praised for the antibodies we were able to develop, including our investigation capacities. And thank you for reminding the intuition of Giovanni Falcone at the time, the follow the money approach. But then at the time, we also had the intuition of setting up a central anti-mafia directorate, which is no little thing. We are, as a matter of fact, role models worldwide, because our anti-mafia directorate joins all law enforcement leaders, and we meet every year to pool resources. And we were trailblazers in doing so. There are so many things we have to do, but we did many of these things. We detained hundreds of mafia members in the last years. We've seized property from mafia members to a great deal. So, and this, against this backdrop, I have to praise women and men in law enforcement and in the judicial system for what they did. In our anti-mafia committee, we had the first detained a mafia member from the Nigeria mafia who decided to collaborate with justice, with the justice system. And they would tell us that there are recruiters of this Nigerian mafia in the countries of origin. This is how they lure Nigerian people into embarking on flimsy boats to get to Italy. In Italy, 45,000 crimes were committed by underage boys and girls, and these crimes are somehow connected to the circles. You know, one of the most successful video games in the world is a video game through which our kids sell drugs and kill policemen. This is what this video game is all about. So this should really be food for thought for us. There are so many daunting challenges we have to face. We have to be brave, even at risk of being unpopular. We have to face the hardest challenges, including the cryptocurrency world. On that front, there's much more that needs to be done. Thank you for giving us the example of East and West Berlin and the fall of the Berlin Wall at the time. Well, for us, for me, we are now faced with a similar challenge, because now the dark web is something very daunting and very obscure. So thank you so very much for reminding us the challenges of the past and how we could overcome them. Are there questions or comments from the floor? You can either get to the podium or take a microphone and speak from your seat.
Buongiorno a tutti, sì, grazie mille.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this very interesting two-day conference. Thank you for all speeches. I'll move to English.
Thank you first, Eugenio, for having the idea of running this seminar. If I get back to what we heard yesterday, mostly through the Heritage Foundation and Enzo, and this morning with the commander, I think it might be it's just a suggestion to OSCE, but it might be a good idea that because we see that all the countries here are working in the same direction. We want more cooperation. We want to invest more on the prevention to young people. 1 minute. My suggestion is, could we as OSCE be proposing, maybe on a longer term, that the Commander spoke of a market, I think this morning, from 400 billion to 600 billion euro on the narco-traffic. Could we use part of this money by creating, under the umbrella of United Nations, an international fund which could finance all the investment we saw needed yesterday for prevention, and put more money to address the younger generation, the young people in schools, in the association, wherever, because we spoke of all the goodwill we have, but that will need money to be installed in all the countries who are willing to cooperate and to work. And I think we could try to find a way through United Nations, by a proposal of OSCE, to create a fund specialized with this, with some of the money that we can get from the Guarda Defendants, from the tons of drugs seizures we have all over the world every year. Part of it should be directly aimed and addressed to this fight for the young generation.
Thank you, Pascal Lecamp, Deputy Head of the French Delegation to the OSCE EPA. Before hearing the reply, I would like to greet and say goodbye to Roberto Montella, our Secretary General, who is leaving. And by thanking you, Roberto, I would like to thank the whole Secretariat, the whole staff of the Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you. And we'll thank them again at the end. Yes, Pascal, absolutely. I think, as far as I'm concerned, we should look into your proposal within the relevant institutions. Are there other questions or comments? You have the floor. From the Albanian delegation, I am Deputy Chair of the Justice Committee in Albania. I would like to thank you, Eugenio, for organizing this very important conference, which is focusing on a hot topic of debate, not only in Albania, but also beyond. At first glance, Albania is growing a lot, and Italy can understand this growth very well. But behind the facade, there is an increase in mafia-type criminal organizations. And I would like to say something that Prosecutor Gratteri has once stated. He said that Albanian mafia is really strong. It's the second strongest mafia in Europe after the 'Ndrangheta. It all started a few years ago with the new spreading of weed. This new trend reinforced those criminal organizations that were already operating and that are now controlling big ports in Europe and controlling traffics coming from the south of the world. These proceeds are then money laundered in Albania in the building sector, and not only that. This has promoted money laundering not only by Albanian criminal organizations, but also by other cartels from Latin America, for example. And we've heard the catchphrase, follow the money, many times. But I would also like to remember what Paolo Borsellino was saying. He was saying that mafia and criminal organizations compete on the same territory. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's important to do so. There is a strong collusion between state power and institutions and criminal organizations. The European Commission, the OSCE, all parties must take this into account. It's a matter of political will. If we follow the money, then at the end, we'll not just find criminal organizations, we'll also find high representatives of the state, the real leaders of the state. And so to conclude, and this is relevant for the OSCE, I think this is bringing about the destruction of all standards, all democratic standards, those standards that legitimize our institutions. Criminal organizations are competing with the state in a way. There are blurred lines between the state and criminal organizations. So we know that one of the strong drug cartels at the moment has bought votes. So that's why this conference is so important and this issue is so relevant for all of us. And we do need governments that are backed by democratic legitimacy that can make their countries a lot stronger. Thank you. Are there any other questions or remarks? If not, I'll now address our keynote speakers and ask them if they have any further remarks. Then let us conclude this session, and I'll also move over there to close our proceedings. I would like to wholeheartedly thank all of you and close this two-day conference And I would like to invite Ms. Valeria Gallardini, the Secretary of the Italian delegation to the OSCE EPA, to come here beside me, as well as Ms. Bonabello to represent the Secretariat. I please ask them to join me here on the stage, if it's not against our protocols, our institutional protocols. Well, if so, let us change the old rules and do something different. I want to have them here beside me, and I would like to thank all the people who are working behind the curtains, all the people who work in our secretariat. I can see Anna and Daria in the audience. Let me also thank all of those who are not here today, but who have chipped in to make this event successful. They have been crucial. All our parliamentary staff, parliamentary security officers. The OSCE EPA is a big family. It's a big team. It's a community of parliamentarians. It's an international community working together, and we have a strong team spirit. I would like to thank the Albanian delegation, the diplomatic representative from Algeria, Armenia, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus. I do it every year. I would like to thank each one of you. Czech Republic, France, Finland, Georgia, Germany, Greece, the Holy See, Ireland, Israel, our delegation, Italy, our friends from Japan. You are here today. You have some diplomatic representatives here, so thank you. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Luxembourg, Mongolia, Montenegro, Morocco, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, San Marino, Spain, Sweden, Slovenia, Thailand is also represented here. The Turkish delegation, and then the Ukrainian delegation. And when we met the Holy Father this morning, we heard a strong message of peace concerning the war in Ukraine. Then let me also thank the UK delegation, the US delegation, as well as all other delegations who are here today. This has been a great opportunity for me. This morning we met the Holy Father, and we also talked about the Helsinki Final Act, and we chose a special cover with a dove on it, with an olive branch representing peace. Then we also put the logo of the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate on the front page, as well as the OSCE logo. And I told him that there were representatives from 42 countries attending this conference. And I said that our organization is made of parliamentarians who are working and are always smiling, and they have become friends despite political differences. And he listened to me, and he was very interested in everything I was saying. And I said, we have decided to fight against drugs together, to fight against organized crime together, because drugs are taking the lives of our young people, and drugs are the lifeblood of criminal organizations. That's what I said. I was deeply moved. I gave him that present from all of us, and once again, let us renew our joint commitment, to fighting against every type of mafia, every type of drug that undermines our societies and our countries. Thank you wholeheartedly for coming to Rome. Thank you for being with us. I would like to also thank the General, all keynote speakers who addressed us yesterday. And once again, let us think about the words of the Holy Father. And I'll see you all in The Hague. Thank you. Long live the OSCE.